Hey everybody, just wanted to do a video here on a product that I started using. Before I primed my pattern plane, I was doing a little research on some different primers, and I knew I wanted to stay away from polyester, and I knew I wanted to stay away from isocyanate or acrylic urethane automotive type primer. And I know there's Class Coat epoxy primer that's out there, but I basically took a shot on this stuff. Ordered it on Amazon. A 1.5 gallon kit shipped to me was like, I think it was about 160 or 180 bucks, something like that. And after reading up on some reviews, I decided to go for it. So the reason why I'm showing you this video is to show you the extent that I've tested this stuff and basically abused its properties and its abilities. I am a former painter, over 2 decades, and a lot of that time was spent working for auto manufacturers, and I've actually been a coatings tester for Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, Volkswagen, and also Boeing, of all companies, when I worked for an aerospace company down in Florida. So I've sprayed a lot of different coatings, primers, top coats, etc. And I had to say that for us hobby level guys, this stuff right here is the cat's meow. Depending upon how you mix it, you can make it a very high filling primer. You can thin it down to where it's just, I don't know what you want to call it in the hobby world, but like it says on the label, a sealer, which would be good for, non-porous surfaces that just need, something put on it for adhesion purposes, or to hide, minor sand scratches. But the surfacer part of it, when you mix it as a surfacer, and again, it comes with a data sheet to show you how to do different mixes, but as a surfacer, that's where you get your film build, to shape and to fill imperfections and things like that. Now, the only downside that I can possibly find with this stuff is the cure time is slow. It's definitely overnight. If I keep it about 75 degrees in my spray booth overnight, in the morning it just sands like butter and just instant powder. Now I've sanded this stuff with 150 all the way up to 500, and it just powders right up, no loading of the sandpaper. It's probably one of the better sanding primer surfacers that I've ever used in my career. So to show you how I've been kind of abusing this stuff, I'll show you something that I've done. Again, it's a simple 2-to-1 mix. 2 parts primer, 1 part hardener. But I actually took this full gallon when it was brand new. I poured off half of it into 2, just a second, 2 of these guys. You can get these at any automotive paint store. They're for a mixing bank, but I filled 2 of these up with the other half of this gallon, and then I took West Systems 410 Microlite, which is like powdered air, I swear, and I filled the other half of this with this microlight, and I took it to have it shaken. Now when it was shaken, the microlight completely, I don't know what the technical term is, but it basically got saturated into the primer. And let's say if this was the halfway point, with all of that microlight in there, it only went up maybe about that much. So that microlight just absorbed into all of this primer. And the beauty of it is that it became a lot thicker. And for us as airplane builders and painters, we want things light, right? Well, as this is produced as is, it's about 50% solids by weight. So what that means is if you mix up, say, 8 ounces of primer and you were to spray it or brush it or roll it or whatever, it's going to weigh half of that when it's cured, meaning 1/2 of it is going to be solvents and whatever that come out of it. Now, with that added to it, and this becomes more viscous, it becomes thicker, you have to reduce it with reducer. Now the reducer doesn't weigh anything because the reducer comes out as it cures. So you can make this even lighter. Now I did some testing and I sprayed, I'm just guessing, probably about a 1 square foot area. And I mean, I hammered this stuff on there with the microlight in with it. I hammered it on this panel that I sprayed. And after it was fully cured, I came back, and I checked it 2 days later to make, it was completely cured. And 3 extremely heavy coats of this stuff only added 18 grams to this approximate 1 square foot area. That's impressive. I don't. I would wager $1 million if anybody could show me something that can do that and fill that much and only add that much weight. Anything else out there would have possibly even been 10 times that. Anyway, so from there, on my airplane that I'm building, I took the microlight filled stuff, which is what's in the gallon can, and did a 2-to-1 and just a splash of reducer. I would say it was probably like spraying slightly thinned down like latex paint. It was about that thick for the first coat on everything. When I tell you that it fills, if you have any pinholes or whatever, it's just gonna lay right over everything. And again, you're only really adding, weight-wise, you're really only adding like about half of what you think you're adding as far as weight, because it's kind of, I don't want to say it's fluffy, but it's been lightened with the, with the West Systems microlight. So, and then it actually makes it sand even easier because the microlight is in it. I keep saying anyway, so did my first prime, whaled it all down with 150 and then 240. Another nice benefit to this too is when it starts to get thin, it becomes transparent, but it's still there. So when you start to see the undersurface, when you start to see your fiberglass balsa wood and all that, it's kind of like an indicator that you need to slow down in that area, but yet there's still primer there. It just kind of starts to come into view, I guess you could say, and then to kind of stay away from those areas, which is a benefit, rather than just breaking through and then all of a sudden you're on your fiberglass. So, like I said, microlight added to this, made a lighter version of the primer, and then this is straight up 100% primer. And then the last thing that I did was I put microlite in the mixed primer to turn it into like a spackling. I gotta stand up. Now, this, believe it or not, is about 3 days old. And the reason why it's not cured is because I've been keeping a cap on it and keeping it in the refrigerator. But it's basically like toothpaste. And this whole cup, that's quite a bit of material in there. I'm gonna estimate that weighs about an ounce. I don't even know. It feels like you're picking up. It's hard to describe it. It's extremely light. I wouldn't say it's Cool Whip, but it's like in between Bondo and Cool Whip. So what I've been doing with this is putting a glove on and then rubbing it into any porosity that I find, or little edges that need some filler or whatever. So that's another way that you can use this primer. And I even added a little bit of this, and you only need a touch of this to turn it kind of gray so you can see where you put it. Because if I just put this on there onto the white, it isn't as obvious. But when you put a little bit of the graphite powder in there to make it just a little bit gray, it's just a lot easier to see. So anyway, and then the last thing is the sealer end of things. Now, again, it comes with a data sheet, and the sealer version is just the same 2-to-1 ratio of these two, but you add extra reducer to make it very thin to act as a sealer. Now, I was shocked to find out that as a sealer, if you have any exposed balsa wood where you had little breakthroughs in your fiberglass, or it could be whatever the substrate is, if you have any breakthroughs in your there's any exposed balsa wood, as a sealer, it soaks in to the balsa and you can see it as you're spraying it. And what I've been doing is, you're talking little areas like the size of maybe a dime, maybe even the size of a quarter or smaller. I just hit it just a little bit extra in those areas, and it soaks in, it soaks into that balsa wood and hardens and almost like petrifies that balsa wood in that area. And it's impressive. That's all I can say. I've never really seen a product that can do this much stuff all in one. So anyway, I want to walk in the booth and show you. Now, this is second prime. I shot this yesterday. And this was all blocked with 150 with a soft pad, and then I guide coated the whole thing over again, and I ran a DA over it with a sponge pad with 240. And I literally sanded this thing in about 2 minutes with the DA with 240. It was very easy. But you guys can just go by sound alone. This stuff is like butter smooth. I could put base coat right on this. It's that smooth. There's no orange peel. It is just absolutely perfect. Right now, I could probably just take some 600 and just drag it over the surface and knock down any little dirt nibs and start painting this thing. It's good stuff. Very, very, very impressive and well worth the money. And that 1.5 gallon kit for $160 or whatever, $180, whatever it was, shipped. That's a lot of material. That's a lot of airplanes. I'm only going to end up using a quarter of this kit to do this big 2-meter airplane. So anyway, that was the intention of the video, is just to show you guys this stuff, and hopefully you get something out of it and maybe even order it. I bought it on Amazon. It's also sold through tcpglobal.com. They are, I believe, the main distributor for this particular brand, this custom shop automotive paint products. So, but again, I just went through Amazon, got the free, no, I did not get free Prime shipping, but anyway, just, you know, check it out, and if you do check it out, let me know, and if you've already tried it, also let me know. I'm curious about other people's experiences. So anyway, ciao.